Shalom uvracha yedidei hayikarim around the world. This is Menachem Missel live in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Today we are talking about a topic that I normally do not talk about, which is the topic of SHOVAVIM. And generally speaking, I have a custom that I like to feel a personal connection to the topics that I teach. If there's a Musar dimension, I want to be connected a little bit to that Musa dimension. That's why I took about Tefillah, I took about Avos Yisrael, I took about things that I feel that I have what to share. These topics, the Shovavim topics, are things for people much holier and much more self-disciplined than I am. But nevertheless, I consider myself, hopefully, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, work in progress. And I feel that if I can give chizuk in others, I will give chizuk to myself. And that is going to be the mandate for me giving this class. As you all know, we're now in the beginning of a 6-week period in the Jewish calendar called SHOVAVIM. Right? SHOVAVIM is based on a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, Perek Gimel, Kaf Beis, Shuvu Banim, SHOVAVIM, Shuvu to Tshuva, the rogue children, the wild, crazy, Levitic children. Please do Tshuva. This is what Yirmiyahu says. And the ancient Sfarim bring down that Shovavim is a reference to the parshias that we read at this time of the year, Shmos, Va'era, Bo, B'Shalach, Yislo, and Mishpatim. If it's a leap year, it's Shovavim Tat, which is Truma and Tetzaveh, and this has already been identified by Rishonim. The Truma Sadeshan was the first that we know of, at least that I know that we know of, that used to fast on Shovavim Tat on the leap year every Thursday. I don't remember exactly how it went. It's brought down by his Talmud, the Leket Yesher. The bottom line is the Mekubalim and the Tzaddikim of Europe already in the times of the Rishonim knew about Shovavim, and it exploded in the times of the Mekubalim, the Arizal in Tzfas, and now really it is something that is become very big. For sure, the Sephardim, right? The Sephardim, they have the kavanas of the Siddur Harashash. You walk around Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, just here in Har Nof, you see signs for what's called Tikkun HaYesod, to metaking this midah called Yesod, the 6th of the 7 holy midos that corresponds to Yosef Atzadik. Tikkun HaYesod, which refers to be metaking the Avain Hayadua, right? Avain Hayadua is a metaphor, that well-known sin. Since they don't say what it is, I won't say what it is, but I will say that I have over here a siddur, which is the Masuk Udvash, which is a Kabbalah siddur based on, it has all the Zohars and stuff. Most of it's al Pi Pshat. It's a phenomenal siddur for those that want to see Mar Makomas from the Zohar, and there on Kriya Shema Al Hamita. So you got to have a strong heart to read it, but it's important to know that those of us that go to sleep at night and we say what we should be saying, which is the full Kriya Shema Al Hamita, you know that these are psukim of Shmira. Shmira for what? Shmira for the Avan Hayadua, for what happens when we sleep. And this is something that is also reflected in the Berkas Hamapil. And my friend Radman has all these rayas to explain why this applies equally for men and for women, even though it seems to be male-focused. Bottom line is that for these sins, the sins that you won't find them written black and white in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not talked about, it's not discussed. It's something that you have seemingly no control over. This is what Tikkun HaYesod comes about. Of course, the Hasidim, and not every Hasidic movement is big into this, but a lot of them are. A lot of the Hasidus who are Kabbalah-based, they also work this time of the end, Shovavim Tat. And then you got As Litvisha. So it breaks down into two. It breaks down into those that are exposed to these teachings. They will also, for example, Ramesh Shapiro, we knew that he fasted on Shovavim Tat, and he expected his Talmidim to be aware to go through the fast, the first either Monday and Thursday, or specifically Thursday, which is the Ikka Yom of Dinim, of Gvuros, of harshness in the week. And what you have for the masses in the yeshiva world, in the literature world, is you see signs up everywhere for chaburos, shiurim, in what they euphemistically call Yoredei Chelik Beis. Yoredei Chelik Beis is just a nice way to publicly talk about that this is the time to learn over Hilchas Nida, the laws of relationships between husband and wife, to go over the laws. And all of this is this time of the year, SHOVAVIM Tat. And the obvious question is, what on earth is going on? First of all, it sounds like a joke. Like you take the first letters of the names of the parshios, and from this you create a something big. That this time of the year, we're in Chodesh Teves, it spills over into Shvat. This is the time for you to be working on these things. Why, where, how, where on earth is this coming thing? What's it going to do with the parshios? And why is it such a big thing, such a huge thing that we talk about these things secretly, and some circles not so secretly, and things that are not in the Gemara and things that are not in Shulchan Aruch. So what is happening over here? It's certainly not in the Rambam. And I'm going to add at the end, it seems to be that it has become stronger as we get closer to the Geula. A lot of awareness of these ideas, also to what's going on in the big wide world, with the craziness of what we're exposed to. The title I gave this was From Kishuv, Bad Dreams, to the TikTok connection, how the world that we live in affects us so badly. There's the Vayimo'ain revolution, which is trying to get these 5-minute clips to give people chizuk to work on these issues. So I want to give this context. I want to give this a little bit of depth. I have to warn you now that some of the ideas I'm going to be saying, I will not fully explain just because of lack of time, but I will refer to you to chapter 17 of my book, Looking into the Sun. Okay, I'm sorry to do this, but if you have not yet bought my book, Looking into the Sun, so chapter 17 is the major Mari Mokom for these ideas, expanded with full Mari Makavis, and I urge you to go to that. And the main ideas also are from my Rebbe Ramon Shapiro. So if you go to Kol HaLashon and you go to Ramon Shapiro and you type in Yom Tovim, you'll see Shovavim, and you listen to those shiurim as well, and you'll see that everything fits if you want supplementary information. Okay, so let's go from the beginning. Why this time of the year? So here already we are on safe ground from the Shulchan Aruch. I just want, this is something that we should all know by now, that these inyanim being this time of the year, that already has a mainstream occur. I just looking at my notes over here, I just wanted to share with everyone, just before we begin, a beautiful story, which I just read this week. I just wanted to share. As you all know, we're very, very happy to last couple of days, we had 3 young ladies who were hostages were brought back. And there's a story that it was recorded down in Kikar Shabbos, which is an online news outlet, about a Hasidic Bacher from London who's learning in Eretz Yisrael. He's going back home, and as is his custom, he will not sit next to a woman. So here again, I'm not in that madrega. Whenever I see it, I'm in awe of these young men. If they do it with dignity, of course. If they do it in a stupid way, so it flips over and becomes a chil Hashem. But very often they do it with tremendous dignity, and they ask very, very nicely and very, very mechubadik. And this is what this young man was doing, British boy, and the lady next to him, no, absolutely not. And everyone's very upset with him. But the one lady gets up, a secular lady, and says, "It would be an honor for me to switch seats with you. Next to me is a man. You don't have nothing to worry about, but I'm asking for a small little favor, and that is to daven for my daughter. My daughter's name is Emily Tehila Bas Amanda, Bas Amanda, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference now. Bas Amanda something. Francis. Yeah. So yeah, you probably guessed it. And my daughter is a hostage, and this is her name was Mandy. The mom's name was Mandy the Murray, and it was for her daughter Emily that was released last week. And the Yeshiva Bacha said over, yeah, I took this very, very seriously, and I davened very, very hard that this woman should be released. And yeah, what can I tell you? I'm still davening for one specific person. I'm not going to say the name, that he should be released. I've been davening since day one. And Shem Yisbarach. So I just wanted to tell you, when we see Hasidim being makpid on this here in Yerushalayim, you see them. So we have respect for them, but what is so extreme about not looking at anything they should not be looking, people that walk the streets here in Yerushalayim with their heads down, this extreme approach to Shmiras Einayim. Today, I just want to bring out that this is very well grounded in something very, 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 very powerful that should inspire us and motivate us to try our best. So let's begin. Step number one is that it's already brought down in Shulchan Aruch that there is something special about Kriyas HaTorah, not just the mitzvah of limit Torah. Learning Torah, we could do 24/7. For you, it's 11 in the evening. For me, it's 11:15. For me, it's 6:15. And we can do it whenever we want, throughout the night, throughout the day, wherever we want, as long as it's a clean place, not a makam etunaf, you can learn Torah, except for in the bathroom, right? This is something big. That's called limit Torah. That's called Talmud Torah. That's the bottom line of Kehim Chayenu V'Orech Himenu, is to study Torah like we do every Thursday night together as Chabura. There's another thing called Kriyas HaTorah, which is a Davish B'Kedusha, something holy that needs 10 people, and it's done in a shul, and it's done specifically on Mondays and Thursday and Shabbos and on special occasions. And there it is trying to do something else, which is to recreate Har Sinai. How do I know? So the Shulchan Aruch brings down in Siman Kuf Mem Hey, let me just give you the exact mark. Siman Kuf Mem Aleph, Halacha Dalach, that you need a sirsor. The sirsor means the in-between guy, and the Mishnah Berurah brings down from the Levush, which in turn is based on a Yerushalmi that says that there's three big people over here. There's the Skan, there's the Balkera, and there's the Oile. The Skan is what we call the Gavai, and he represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Unfortunately, in some shuls, they really take this a little bit too literally, but they think they're God, but they're the ones that decide who gets the Aliyahs. He's called the Skan. Then there's the Sirsor, is literally means the in-between guy, who's the Balkera. He represents Moshe Rabbeinu, and then the person gets the Aliyah represents Klal Yisrael. So this is Har Sinai in action, where you have God and his people, and Moshe Rabbeinu in between. These are the three people that are up there on the bima. The bima itself represents Har Sinai. That's why it's elevated. That's why it's central. The Jewish people were around it, so we are around the bima. It's one of the first things that Reform did, is to make it like a church, put it in the front. No, we have it in the middle, because we want to create Har Sinai. Reb Chaim, this is Ramesh Shapiro. I heard this from Ramesh Shapiro, and he said it. It's not written by Reb Chaim. He just adds a little bit more of information that's obviously relevant to what we're saying now. That Torah has got two dimensions, and one of them is that in last week's parasha, Moshe says to Paro that Tavdon es Hashem b'harazu. Excuse me, that's Hashem talking to Moshe Rabbeinu at the snare. You will serve me at that mountain. So Har Sinai is called an avodah. So what is the avodah? You have avodah is normally tefillah. So Reb Chaim explains that the avodah it's the avodah of Kabbalah HaTorah. So Kabbalah HaTorah is a thing. It's Shavuos. It's different. And Shavuos actually is one of the worst days of learning, because everyone stays up all night and spends the whole day in like in the days. It's not necessarily a great learning day. It's a Kabbalah HaTorah day. It's a different thing. And Reb Chaim says that Takanas Ezra was just to relive Kabbalah's Torah drawn out over the years. So we're in a perpetual state of reliving Kabbalah's Torah, and the parshas fit in. So what that means is that the parsha Shavua is not random. It's not something that could be switched. Even though we no longer do the 3-year cycle, we do a 1-year cycle. Everything comes with extreme siyata d'shmaya. You and I will name our kids after the events from the parsha. We'll make all kinds of reference to the parsha because the parsha is just like we come out on Seder night. We come out of Egypt just like in Shavuos. We re-accept the Torah. The parshias is a perpetual Kabbalah Satera. So we re-accept this tomorrow morning, here in Eretz Yisrael tomorrow morning. We re-accept Parshas Ve'era. That's what we do tomorrow morning. And last week we re-accepted Parshas Shemos. And next week we'll re-accept Parshas Bo. And if you're Hasidish and Parshas Bo, then you will make references to Seder night and Parshas Peshalach for Kriyas Yamsuf and Yisro's Matan Torah, and all these things are the weeks of Geula, and the weeks begin with Galus. We come out of Egypt. So these 6 weeks, the storyline is the story of coming out of Egypt, is Yetzias Mitzrayim. So therefore, not some kind of deep, powerful thing. By definition, we are going through Yetzias Mitzrayim once again, and we are reaccepting the value system of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and therefore we ask ourselves, what is Mitzrayim, and what does it mean to come out of it once again? So Ramesha identified 3 things that were uniquely in Mitzrayim, 3 things that you were uniquely evil about Mitzrayim that we found ourselves. So the Galus on a spiritual level was on 3 dimensions. And to come out of that, we have 3 people to help us, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So what's about to happen now is I'm going to identify 3 things that Mitzrayim holds us back. And these 3 things are continued until Mashiach comes and takes us out of Mitzrayim for one last time. Every year, we're still in Galus Mitzrayim on a certain level, and every year we need to come out. And the Avos are the ones that show us how. It's very, very interesting. You must read the introduction to Sefer Shemos by the Rambam. It's one of the classics, and he introduces Sefer HaGeula, the whole book of Moses, one of the 5 books of Moses, the 5 books, the Sfarim, is the Sefer Shemos, it's called Sefer HaGeula, and it's how to get out of Egypt. And it climaxes with the building of the Mishkan. He writes that when we finally do so, then Klal Yisrael, in his words, Shavu L'malas Avosam, we go back once again to reach the level that the Avos reached in Sefer Bereshis, and then we are considered fully experiencing the Geula, meaning Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov have achieved the Geula between themselves, and their children have to recreate what happened in Sefer Bereshis by the Avos. So the avoda is to go back to what they gave us. So this is how Ramesha Shapira did it. He identified what Avram gave us, what Yitzchak gave us, what Yaakov gave us, what we lost in Mitzrayim, and what we're trying to regain. So let's begin with Avram Avinu. With Avram Avinu, he gave the world emunah. So he was the person. I brought down the psukim over here. I don't have to. With Avram Avinu, the fact that he was the one that discovered God, and he lived in a world of idol worship and broke through, literally, and brought everything up to Shemayim. So that is something that defines Avram Avinu, Avram Oyavai, the one that loved me, that brought emunah into this world. He was the one that was the Ish Naaman that brought the man of emunah. And what's interesting, the Rambam says over here that this is the Rambam in Hilchas Avodah Zarah at the very end of Perek Aleph. So Avodah Zarah, he goes through the history of how Avodah Zarah was brought into this world and how we fix it. And Avram Avinu was the first one to discover God. And he writes, quote, "Kimat kat beise emuna sheshasal Avram." Avram Avinu was one that planted emuna into this world, and it was almost gone. We almost lost it. No more emuna. Emuna means that Aleph, Mem, Nun, right? Aleph is the first letter, Mem, Nun, the middle letter. It's tough. You don't see where this is going. You don't see the full picture, but you have emuna. Emunah sichlis, intelligent emunah, that you see that Kush Baruch Hu runs the world and everything needs to be brought to Hashem. So we almost lost that until we in Mitzrayim regained it through the Yitzias Mitzrayim and through Moshe Rabbeinu. So this is something, Avram Avinu is the side of emunah. How did it happen in Mitzrayim? So Mitzrayim is defined by Paro. Paro gets up and says, Mi Hashem, Hashem, last week's parasha, who is this God that you attain that we should serve him? No such person. The denial of a higher force was the central theme of Avram Avinu, of Paro, and Avram Avinu stood against this. So for our dear friend Rav Shmuel Ross has just joined us from Denver, a quick recap of what is happening over here. We're going through the Avos and how they were the counterweight to the tumah of Galus Mitzrayim and how they show us the way how to get out. So Avram gave us Emunah as the counterweight to the opposite, the kfira of Paro. Paro is the great kafir, and Paro is the great kafir, and Avram is the great mamin. So that's step number one. Step number two is Yitzchak. So as we all know, the difference between Mitzrayim and Eretz Yisrael. Mitzrayim is the country that does not need rain. Everything they can get from the powerful Nile. So it's brought down in the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vashkesi." But once this is Parshas Ekev, "Baraglecha kagan ha yarak." Right, this is the Nile. Everything is fed by the river Nile, and if you don't believe that, you're in denial. I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, this is Mitzrayim. Does not need rain. Everything's down here, Minea Bay, in the physical world. And in Parshas Ekev, it contrasts it with Eretz Yisrael, where the pasuk says, "Limtar shemaim tishte maim." You can only drink water, which is what you need to survive, by looking at the heavens and bringing water down. Like Adam Arishon, when he opens his eyes for the first time, he asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu for rain. The first words that come out of his mouth is tefillah. Hashem, bring the rains down. And this is how the connection between man and the higher worlds begins. The first word of man was tefillah, and this becomes what it means to live in Eretz Yisrael. And by the way, we do not have enough rain this year. It rained today, and everyone was noticing that. Yeah, thank God it rained today, because I think we're at 30% what we should be having at this point now. So we need to daven for rain in Eretz Yisrael. But davening for rain is Eretz Yisrael, Dick. This is what we do. We're always looking at Kadosh Baruch Hu, bring the shepherd down, bring the shepherd down. Who was the one that showed us how to do that? That's Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu is the Yesod of Aveda. He was the one that was naked on the Mizbeach. He is the one that said that my essence is to teach my children how to be daveners, how to turn to Kadosh Baruch Hu in tefillah. So Abraham is the Yesod of Emunah, Yitzchak is tefillah. Mitzrayim is, number one, the site of kfira, it's Paro. Number two, it's the site of no need for tefillah, because we have the Nile. And now comes the third one, which is, for this year, the most important. It's Yaakov Avinu, and the idea that we have a land that is kulei kshafim, kulei witchcraft, and we have Yaakov Avinu, which is the antithesis of witchcraft, which is emes. It comes out that Paro was kulei sheker. He was the witch sheker, as we're going to see in the language of the Rambam in a moment, defines kishuv. Kishuv is the whole world of trickery, and Yaakov Avinu tells us no, we have to live in a world that is founded in emes. And here we have to go a little bit deeply. We can't just say the words emes, sheker, kishuv without explaining what it means, because these things are complex and deep and need to be explained. So all of you are that's listening to me now live, you're all in my holy Chabura, and you know that we're learning Shabbos Ayin Hey Amud Aleph, and we just saw last week, and I said I would get back to it, that Paro was an Amgushi. Amgushi means he was a wizard. Okay, so when Hagrid says you're a wizard, Harry, So Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, you're a wizard, Paro. Paro was not just any wizard; he was the greatest wizard of all time, and he was the master of Kishuf, and the whole empire of Mitzrayim is built around Kishuf. So means witchcraft. Um, Witchcraft comes with its sister sugya called shadim. Shadim are demons, the abuse and the use of demons, and all of these things we're about to explain. These are all the dark side things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into this world. So when Moshe Rabbeinu comes and shows a nace that HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught him with the mata, with the staff, without going into that nace, so the first thing that Paro does is that he scoffs, makes fun, and says, "You're showing magic tricks." He says, "You're in Egypt, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're in Egypt. This is like the most ridiculous thing." And I want to give you the quote from Shemos Rabbah, Perek Tes, subsection Vav, during the nace, the miracle of the Mata. So it describes Paro's reaction. When the miracle was performed with the staff, Paro laughed, and I don't know why I like this so much. He says he was makarka ketarnagal. He started cackling like a chicken. That was his laugh. If you want to know how Paro laughs, he was cackling like a chicken. And then he said, "You're bringing witchcraft to Mitzrayim." He says, "Einatem yodim, don't you know? Shakal hak shafim b'rshusiyim. I have in my hands every single form of witchcraft. Miyad shalach vehevi tinekis min ha'askuli shalahem." You see the word askuli is a school. He brought little children who had come out from the kindergartens in Egypt. V'asa avheim kach. They also did those things. So once again, if you're into Harry Potter, he did not take any. He took first years in Hogwarts and took those little Hermiones and said, "Do this, show that you can do it already." And you learn in first year in witchcraft school, and that's it. So Paro is unimpressed because we are witchcraft, and everything about Mitzrayim is witchcraft, and this is our koach, and this is our strength, and there's so much to talk about over here. Because last week we gave a class where we showed the difference between witchcraft on the one side and avodah zarah on the other side. There's two separate parts of evil. And avodah zarah is serving idols, and witchcraft is manipulating the forces of evil that Hashem created in this world. And I said I would explain it this week, so I'm going to explain it to you right now. And the sefer that you need to explain it in simple Hebrew and simple English. Nowadays, it's all this sefer over here. I got this in Yarchikala last year. This is my dear friend Abba Naiman's footnotes and Sefer Derech Hashem. Sefer Derech Hashem, I just saw a haskama from Sternbuch. He says that that today it is the foundation Sefer for bringing the Melech HaMashiach, because it has in it all the understandings of how Kadosh Baruch Hu runs this world. And he adds, it's also the mafteach for learning Pnimius, for understanding deeper things in Kabbalah. Derech Hashem is the opening sefer. So in Sefer Derech Hashem, there's a whole section on witchcraft, and he precedes it with a very, very important paragraph. For those of you who want to know where it is, it's in Chelek Gimel, chapter 2. At the very end, Ches and Tes, he speaks about the concept of Zu Lu'umazu Asa Elokim. This is a foundational concept in Judaism, that everything that is on the force of good, you have on the force of bad. You have darkness and you have light. You have the two have to be opposite. We need this for bechira, for free choice. That Kadosh Baruch Hu always created the world with zu l'umazu. At any given moment, you can choose sheker or you can choose emes. You can choose tumah. You can choose tahara. It's the choice that we always have, and the side of evil will always be equally enticing. So Kadosh Baruch Hu permitted the keiches of Ra to exist through our bechira. We're not going to go into this except to tell you how it applies over here to Kishuf. So the Ramchal explains the following thing. He says that Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world of kedusha, that you can use forces of Kedusha for very, very powerful things, which is the source of the koach of the Nevi'im, of the prophets. And then you have the prophets of Baal, and they use Shofim and they use Shadim, right? So Shofim is witchcraft, and Shadim is the manipulation of demons, and they're not exactly the same. What's the difference between them? I have no idea. Honestly, I'm sorry, it's not part of my job description, but there are two branches of the Koach of Tumah. One is called witchcraft. With witchcraft, it's got also the sister things of being derish al hamesim, necromancy, and all the other fun things that people do. Unfortunately, when I was in South Florida 2 years ago, so I went to a place. It was like a safe house for kids that had gone through Gehenna and were now coming back. And one of the girls there, from a Hasidic background, was studying to be a witch, and it's a real thing. Hashem Yerachim, Hashem Yerachim, and I guess kids are attracted to these things. And when I say it's a real thing, what she was doing was not the real thing, but it's a real thing today. You go to parts of Africa and in South America, you go to these places. I don't really know much about these things. I don't remember if I mentioned this last week, but I remember when I was a young man, there was a crazy story that came out of Brazil. From man had owned a factory, and in the factory he had to fire a worker. That worker went to his local witch doctor, who put a curse on the owner, on the Yiddish owner, and crazy things started to happen to him. He would lose control of his car, all kinds of things. Shalok derech hatzeva, kochos of tumah. And the shaila was that the only way to undo it is to pay a witch to do an undo, so to speak. And that was the shaila that went to New York, and the post that passed that he could. The point is that he was using one witch to undo what another witch was doing, and these things still exist. I have my own personal story. It's a crazy story. I don't like to say in 2 minutes. It's a very, very powerful story, but unfortunately, because of time, I'm just going to give you the bottom line. I had a personal story where a talmida of mine in one of the seminaries that I teach, it was a very long time ago, it was Schaffman's. So she was like a front row student, and then suddenly you could tell that she was not with the program. She was moving to the back of the class, falling asleep while trying to listen to me. She obviously was not doing well. I asked her what's going on, and she confided in me that her father had come to Eretz Yisrael, taken her to a makubal in the north of the country. I know exactly who it is, but I'm not going to say. A makubal in the north of the country, and the makubal told her that was able to see in her face that she had a boyfriend, whatever, crazy stuff. Said everything, he knew everything about her, and was able to read from her, and then said that that boyfriend is not your b'sher, get rid of him. And then he told her so irresponsibly that her b'shert is waiting for her this year. It's somebody else, and gave her a kamiyah, something to put around her neck. And that's it. She was going crazy because she dropped the boy, and she felt that she had to find a new boy, and she was going to Ben Yehuda back in the day. And then she was getting these horrific nightmares. And I actually borrowed the necklace from her for one night, and I put it under my pillow. And I'd been married for a bunch of years, and I woke up in the night in a hot sweat screaming, and my wife said she was terrified. And I don't even know what happened, but it's somehow or other, there was a koach hatumah that was coming out of this thing. And we went to Rabbi Yaakov Hillel. And Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, who is without question the greatest makubal of our dar, accepted by everyone, accepted by all the sides. The literature Rosh Hashivas go to him as well, and everyone accepts him. And he told the girl, he made it break open with her own hands this thing and showed her inside the lettuce and klafim and the herbs that were in there. He made her flush it down the toilet. And as she went away, I asked him, Rebbe, what's going on? Okay, what's happening over here? And he told me something so scary. He said there are Mekubalim here in Eretz Yisrael that think they're using the side of Kedusha and they don't realize they're using the side of Tumah, because the difference between Kedusha and Tumah is thin line, and they don't know which side they're on. And he went on to tell her, this girl, that she has to do a reset and go back to where she was. Hi, and not today until Menachem Nissel says you're ready today. And the rest of the year was very, very good, but not really, because afterwards we were talking and she chapped that her father was involved. Unfortunately, she had a very controlling, rich father who apparently must have given money to this Makobo, right? And that's how he knew all the information about her. The bottom line is that her relationship with her father was irrevocably strained, but she went on to build a good life for herself. Point of my story, that he said to me, no, David wants to know, do you ever get back with the boy? Not that I know of. I lost, but I tell you what I do know is that he said to me the following line. He said, the kochos of Tumah, this is a quote from Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, there are still old men in Shar Damascus, or in Damascus Gate, that still know about these kochos. So these things are real. There's a thing called kishuf, and there's a thing called kedusha, and Hashem made it zulu umazu. And this all came out in Mitzrayim, and what I want to share with you is yeah, this is something I discovered just now in my little research over here. The sugya of kishuf is really in one daf of Gemara in Sanhedrin Samach Zayin Amud Beis. I don't know where you guys, and if you do daf yomi, tell me where you're up to. Samach Zayin Amud Beis. And there I found two stories, literally one after the other. And it's just a crazy thing. There's a story about Zeiri. Zeiri is one of the Amoraim, goes down to Alexandria Shel Mitzrayim, not just any Alexandria, no Alexandria in the United States, Alexandria of Mitzrayim, and he buys a donkey. He buys a donkey, and it says when he takes the donkey to schlep his stuff, he gives the donkey to drink in the river, and the donkey drinks and turns into a gamla doskinta, a piece of wood made out of discreta wood, whatever. It melted. It's like Wizard of Oz. I'm melting, that whole thing. It melted. So if he had been smart, he should have first slept all his goods and then let it melt. And he went back to get his money back and says, you sold me witchcraft. And they laughed at him. And he said, because you're Zeiri and a respectable man, we're going to give you your money back. But you should know that who buys a donkey in Alexandria of Mitzrayim and doesn't check to see if it's not created out of witchcraft? First thing you do is you bring it to water to see if it's real or not. This is what's called, you use it a one-time thing, and then afterwards it's disposable. It's not real. It's all witchcraft. Everyone knows that. This is Mitzrayim. This is Alexandria Mitzrayim, which for me is incredible because, last time I checked out, the Mitzrayim of Klal Yisrael was destroyed. But the Koyach of Tumah, they still have these techniques that they knew what to do. A few lines before that, you have the well-known story. I said the well-known story because you're going to see that you know this story of Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Oshia. Every Erev Shabbos, they used to create an igla tilta. An igla tilta used to keep a delicious calf that they used to shach for Shabbos. Tilta means the third eye. That means it's 1/3 through its life, or it's the third of its mother. Either way, the tilta means it was perfectly, the taste was perfect. And they did this using Sefer Yetzirah, using this book called Sefer Yetzirah. So one is using extreme MS, and one is using extreme Sheka, extreme Kedusha, extreme Tumah. And you have both stories. One happens in Mitzrayim, which is a place of Tumah. The other one happens Erev Shabbos, which is the time for Shabbos, which is Shabbos of MS. We had a whole class together, you and I, that Shabbos is the time for MS. And so MS versus Sheka, these two stories come together with each other. The Sheka one, which is made out of witchcraft, that melts with water, and the MS one can theoretically stay, but it got eaten and became part of these holy tzaddikim, Rabbi Hanina and Rabbi Ishia. So again, what we need to know is not how to do these things. Today it's not relevant, but we need to know these things exist. And what I'm about to do with you now is take you and show you how all of this applies today and why we are talking about this and why this connects to Shovavim. And it's very, very important. These things are very, very important because we see, first of all, that all the Gedolim do talk about it today, and it's become big, and also the world that we live in needs what I'm about to say in a very, very big way. So the first thing I want to do is remind you of the famous words of the Rambam, Maimonides, on his whole section in Halacha that talks about Kishuf and all the sister things that go with Kishuf, using Shadim and the Mu'aynim and the Chaver, all these people that use all kinds of crazy techniques to connect with what we call the dark side. This is at the end of Perek Yud Aleph. This is Halacha Tes Zayin. He says, Devarim elu kulon divrei sheker v'chazov hein. They're all sheker and chazov. Lies. Now, many people misread this Rambam, and they say that Rambam says they do not exist. He does not say that they do not exist. I remember hearing this when I was a young man, because I also thought that the Rambam, was a rationalist. It's what they teach you in university. If it pleases you to say the Rambam goes against Gemara, so then you say he holds these things to not exist. But okay, Gemara brings it down, and it's brought down in all the midrashim and everything. It's we're built on this thing. There's a thing called kishuv. There's zula umazu, as the Serach Derech Hashem says. There's kishuv. There's shadim. All these things are brought down. Shadim are mentioned in the Torah. He calls them sheker v'chazov. I think that sheker is connected kishuv and chazov is connected shadim. But whatever. Bottom line is, he says they are things that exist as sheker. They exist as sheker. That's what the Rambam means over here. And we've spoken about this before. And once again, I urge you to read chapter 17 of my book. Oh, I'm so pathetic. Yeah, there I explain what this means in greater detail. What you need to know is the following thing: is that witchcraft uses sheker and terror uses emes. There's another way of saying it, and this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. And I apologize for saying these deep ideas. This is really where the shir is about to get very deep. And I'm hoping that you're not hearing these ideas for the first time. If so, it's a lot to swallow. You may have to rewind this. But what the Maharal says in many, many, many places, there's another way of saying sheker and emes, and that is to use what's called the phrases chaymer and surah. Chaymer and surah is a word that the Rishonim made up to bring out this big idea. Chaymer normally means raw material, and surah means to turn it into form. Chaymer means you got a bunch of clay in front of you, and you can do whatever you want. And surah means that with my magical hands, I take that clay and I turn it into this beautiful jar, a jug, whatever it be. It can be whatever I want. I turn it, and once it has surah, it has functionality. It's part of the world of reality. You can use it. Beforehand, it's just potential. That's emes. Right? Emes means that you're part of this world, in this world of reality, doing something, taking raw materials and using it for something constructive. Sheker is the ability to give reality to the chaymer itself, meaning the raw material is nothing. It's just there. But no, I can go into that raw material and I can turn it into something that's alive, that's powerful, that has no end to it. Just give you a simple example. Money. Right? Money, it's a gas. The whole world is obsessed with money. Now, what is money? Money is chaymer. It's perfect chaymer. So I have over here my stock of funds over here. You got all this money. What do you do with money? You don't want the money. You want to turn the chaymer into tzura. So with money, I buy this computer. With money, I buy these farm. With money, I build my Yiddish home. With money, I do tzedakos. With money, I do all kinds of good things. So I turn the chaymer into tzura. The money suddenly becomes kadosh. It becomes a shekel, right? Shekel is that giving coins. the ability to take the kesef from Lashon Kisufim and desire to do something good with it. So that is all Mamerchet of Kedusha, of using your money for making the world a better place. You and I know people who are obsessed with money, that they will hoard their money and do nothing with it. And it actually pains them to turn that money and to turn it into like real estate or whatever. They do not care about turning their chaymer into tzura. They become addicted to money and they live in that money and they die with that money. And this is what makes them happy. Now, these are people who are sucked into the world of shadim and witchcraft, this world of chaymer. For our class, for our shir over here, we need to talk about get straight to the point over here. And that is the following thing. Let me give an example of how this applies to what we're talking about. And here I'm asking you to listen carefully, it's a little complicated. Another way of saying dimion and seichel, dimion, another way of saying chaymer and surah is dimion and seichel. Okay, so I just need to explain to you what just happened over here. Dimion means imagination, and seichel in this context means turning imagination and giving it functionality. The world of dimion is the world of imagination. Without that, you and I could not survive. So I used my dimion to prepare the share. So I turned the imaginary world and did it and made it into these notes that I have in front of me. I work with teenage kids. It's a different generation. I have to understand it. I use my dimion to try and figure out what it would be like to live in the world of TikTok. I use my dimion for tefillah. Shulchan Aruch brings down, before you take your 3 steps, you have to imagine that you're going to a king, and now you're going to the King of Kings who's infinitely beyond that. You need your dimion for everything good in this world, to build your Jewish home, to have an impact in society. Every single time that you want to do what's right, starts off in dimion and then turns into something real. The dimion itself is chaymer. It's just raw material, but then you use it for tachlis. That's what Hashem wanted. The dimion is the kli hasechel. But what happens if the dimion becomes the goal? Everything, life is dimion. So then you're entered to the world of kishuv, of shadim. Another time we spoke about sports. It's a Hanukkah class. It's not for now. And sports only happens in dimion, and nothing ever happened since the Greeks until today in the world of sports. Outside this world of chaymer for its own sake, we decided that this imaginary world, that if a ball goes in a hoop or a ball goes in between 2 wooden sticks, or a funny shaped ball goes like that, suddenly we say this is worth drinking beer. This is worth betting money on. This is worth screaming and shouting. This is worth wearing a scarf. This is worth, in Central America, they went to war over a soccer game. So that is one example of something that's pure dimion, pure chaymer, that we gave it surah that doesn't exist. It's all happening in that world of dimion. But now comes the thing that you've all been waiting for. And that is what happens with the dimion is hurting the single most important connection between chaymer and surah that exists in our reality, in the world that we live in. So here the Holy Sfarim tell us that I'm talking to men now. This is all men. We're all adults. We're all over the mitzvah. That the key to life is that the man gives tzura to the chaymer, which is the female. It goes back to the first pasuk in the Torah. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. So the heaven seeds the earth, and the earth turns from being a midbar, from being a wilderness, into being something that is fruitful and can give out an infinity of potential. And the same thing, a woman is barren, and then a man gives her the ability to create life and to be godlike. And his godliness is to be able to create that ability. This is great if you have a great marriage and Baruch Hu grants you this beautiful situation. So you focus on your Rebbitzin. So when I got married, so my Rebbe Rosh Shapiro said to me, from now onwards, every single decision you make, you have to ask yourself, how is this good for my wife? That's what he said. Telling you, I don't mean to give you anyone muster, just telling you what he said. That's it. She's now the centerpiece of my life. And that's the way it should be. And no one else exists. Because the Gemara says, Nashim am bifnei atzma, women separate, men separate, two separate realities. And here in Yerushalayim, that's how we try and raise our kids. And then they come together to create this thing called the bias. And this is a miniature of this bias that we're all waiting for, the bias hagadol. And that's when you get it right. Now, what happens if you enter a world, let's take advertising for an example. How does advertising work? Advertising works that every single time you want to buy a car, right? Car takes you from place A to place B. They put a woman and make it as close to Chava before the Chet, and that's it. And suddenly you're buying that car. They're doing this for a reason. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening is in your dimyon, you buy the car, you get the woman for free. So that woman is suddenly entered into your dimyon with the car. That's how it works. But what happens, like my Talmidim in YU once told me that he says, we can't leave the campus because to leave, we have to pass these billboards. And it's gefährlich. So you walk down the streets of Manhattan and you look left, look right. All you see is this kilkul of this dimyon saying to you, you'll get this woman, you get that woman. If you buy this fragrance, if you do that, everything over there is stimulating you. Now, advertising is a halbatzar. It's only half of a problem. The big problem is that studies show, I use one study that blew me away. They studied women watching soap operas, and they noticed that the women's eyes were actually focused on the female. Well, Chazal have been saying this forever, because what she wants is in her dimyon, in the world of dimyon, that she should enter into that woman who's interacting with that male. So Rav Shapiro said she's got to work twice as hard, because first she has to imagine she's the woman, and then she has to imagine the narrative of being with a man. And if you want to work 3 times as hard, what happens if you're already old and has been? So now you have to imagine that you're young and that you're that person and that you're interacting, and all this is happening, the Merechet of Dimyon. And you might think, why is this a big deal? Why is this a big deal? Because this is the fertile soil of Kishuv. This is the fertile soil of Shadim. This is where it all happens. And if you want to know where it really, really, really happens, it happens in the world of sleep. But before we get that, let me just go back to Egypt before I forget. The Maral tells us that Chayme in Surah, it's not just by chance. The Hebrew word for a donkey is a chamor, and Egypt is called Besar Chamerim Besarim. The pasuk in Yecheskel, Perak of Gimel. Besar Chamerim Besarim. The flesh of the Egyptians is the Besar of Chamerim. The Maral explains that the Kulei Chaimer. Chaimer is physicality, is earthliness. Physicality is what is their flesh of the Egyptian. And donkey is a perfect example. A donkey on its own is just potential. If you can harness the donkey, it can schlep your goods for you long distances. But if you don't harness it, it turns around and gives you a kick. It doesn't have surah to it. So the Gemara tells us that it's a fatal kick. A donkey can kill you. And it's all marshal for the way that these people work. But it's not really a marshal, because Bilam Harasha used his donkey, this is what the Sfarim bring down, to be able to get out all his kishuf and all his avodah zarah. Bilam's Rebbetzin, remember, he's married to this donkey in Parshas Balak, husband and wife. And what does he get out of this donkey? The answer is all his kayach hakishuf. He gets out of the chamor, which is chaimer, which is physicality, which is getting it out of earth with no connection to the heavens. They'll say that this is also insane, that Paro was an Amahai. The Gemara in Moed Cotton, he was one Amahai. One Amahai means that, the Maral says it's not literal, it means he was its whole essence was connected to earth, nothing to the higher worlds. So now let's go back to the world of dreams. So once again, in this chapter 17 in my book, I talk about 4 different levels of dreams. Highest level is Nevuah, nothing to talk about today. The lowest level is 99% of our dreams. It's just the subconscious reconstituting what we saw in the day. It also has no meaning. We can forget them. But this level 2 and 3 is also in Sefer Derech Hashem, right there where it talks about Kishuf. It talks about dreams as well. And it says that there are dreams that can be hijacked by Shadim. And then there's level 3, the higher one, that are the levels of Kedusha, which is where you can get proper visions of what's going to be, or more importantly, you can get Torah knowledge like people did in the world of dreams. It's level 3, which is the level of Kedusha. Then you have level 2, which is the level of Shadim. In that level of Shadim, that's where all the bad things happen. When a person dreams, so the world is just Dimyon. And every single thing he saw during the day. And if you live in America today, or in England, wherever you are, from the morning to night, you can see so many different things just by you put on the television, you put on the your news feed. I don't know why I saw this, but I watched on this screen I'm looking at now, Fox News on the inauguration. And I didn't know why I saw this, but I just saw the president and his wife at the inaugural ball. And there you see a good-looking soldier is dancing with Melania. And then you see this good-looking woman soldier is dancing with Donald Trump. What's going on over here? Imagine in our circles, such a thing happening. So we say it's nothing. It's nothing. It's not nothing. It's not nothing because the dimion is now infected with whatever you experience. And people see hundreds of these things a day. And then they don't understand why they have difficulty with their marriage. And they don't understand why they need desperately to say those psukim before they go to sleep at night. This is all the bad things happen. And it's just the whole essence has become polluted with our dimions have become polluted. Enter Shovavim. This is the time of the year where we try and escape from this horrible, scary reality. And this is the time where we say, we don't have to be in Mitzrayim anymore in the world that is Chaimer, that everywhere the Dimion is taking us into these imaginary things that disconnects us from Emes. Emes is taking all those kochos that we have of creating life and bringing them to its tachlis. When a man gives his koach of creation to his wife and nothing else exists, so be'etzem, he's a little bit like a Kodesh Baruch himself. He's a Beire. He's a Beire. The Ramban calls your parents the Beire Achrein. You're a Beire, a creator. Not only that, Ramesh Shapir explains that when a husband does what he's supposed to do, and his dimion is focused on his wife, so he's following what the Avos and the Imos did. The next generation should be a continuation of the high generation, and everything should be connected to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and they're doing what's right. The third thing Ramesh points out, this is so beautiful. It's scary at the same time, but it's so beautiful. When Yaakov Avinu dies, his 12 sons are surrounding him. He says, I want to tell you about the Geula, but I'm worried that there's a psul in your zera. Now, he's worried about exactly the things that we're talking about, that the zera, his seed, has some kind of an impurity in it. And how do they answer? Shema Yisrael, listen to Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. No, we're with you. Everything's one. Everything's perfect. Everything is aligned upwards. Avram Avinu, we mentioned, is the man of faith. And Ramesha brought down from the Maharal that to be a man of faith, you have to be a person who has faithfulness inside of his essence, which means you're faithful to your wife and you don't look at anything else. And it just applies to everything that we do, that an Ishnam takes what he's given and gives it to its correct tachlis and doesn't allow this world of imagination is stuff to take things away. So in practice, I want to finish off and say, Kosh Baruch Hu, I don't know, should give us koach in this difficult period in history where we're literally drowning in dimya, we're drowning in chaymer, We're drowning in the raw material of Mitzrayim, which is Kishuf and Shadim. And we're trying desperately to say that our Zerah should be kosher and that we're able to be people that bring the Geula. On a practical level, the first thing is to work harder on Krish Malamita. It's something that everyone can do to try and understand the Psukim, ask the Krish Baruch Hu for Shmirah during all that part of our lives when we're asleep. On a practical level, this computer in front of me, whatever we can do to elevate the Kedusha. I see there's a Rav Zullerberg, he has this whole Omani Choma campaign for Shovavim, technology campaigns, whatever we can do to upgrade so that what we see when we put on what we have to put on the internet should be only things that are mutar, only things that can allow us to continue that road to Kedusha. And as Hashem Yisbarach, what we could do is our best to connect to these ideas. And as Hashem Yisbarach, we should be zeicha, like what Yaakov Avinu wanted, that in the world of Mitzrayim, and I forgot to mention Yosef, because Yosef is obviously the one that shows us how to do this in real life. The midah of Yesod, the midah of Kichol B'Shamayim V'Aretz, the midah of taking everything over here and directing it to its proper intended purpose, the way it should be. That we should be zeicha to do that. We should be zeicha to bring the Gula Shalem of Meher V'Yameinu. Thank you so much for listening.